Hello, I'm Tony An of Tony An and Company, the Philippines' first hybrid traditional and digital marketing and public relations agency. I'm here to present to you my talk at the 19th PR Congress held in Manila on September 27th and 8th, 2012. My talk was on managing corporate reputation online. Let's get started. So here in the Philippines, I first wanted to start off by talking about the way we were and the way that we've gone about PR in the past. We were very opaque. We believed what the media didn't know, couldn't hurt us. And, this was the old style. So it was when stories were moving on a 24-hour broadsheet cycle. So when some sort of a crisis happened, there was time. There was time to put a committee together and talk about what's the best strategy, how should we contain the story, and controlling the story or containing the story was the primary mission. But things have changed since then. And the way we are now here in the Philippines is, I won't call us transparent, but we're going in that direction. So we're translucent. And we're moving faster. News no longer moves on a 24-hour cycle. And so we're learning to be able to get a response together quicker, but we're still tending to be responsive rather than proactive. And we're starting to engage with influencers. We're engaging better with the press and faster. We're starting to engage with new media like bloggers, but we're also engaging with the public mostly on our own turf meaning our website or our Facebook or Twitter, things like that. The way we need to be is radically transparent. We need to be able to move as fast as Twitter so that when something happens, we notice it right away in real time in social media and have a response out within an hour, sooner if possible, because the faster we can mitigate, the faster we stop things from spreading, especially if it's things that aren't true. We need to start engaging with the public where the public congregates to share information and do it in a credible fashion. So rather than only engaging with the public on our website or in our chosen channels, we need to find out where the public is. Are they talking about it on a specific forum like PinoyExchange.com? Are they talking about it on Twitter? Are they talking about it in other places? And we need to notice that, to be monitoring and notice that, and go to those places and then respond there, in those places, in the channels that they're comfortable communicating in. And the first step, though, I think, is proactive reputation management, which is not something that a lot of companies think about. They wait until there's a problem and they spend a lot of money trying to fix it, when they could have spent a lot more money if they had just been a little bit proactive. So I'm going to talk about a few different strategies, sort of in order from least costly or expensive to most costly or expensive. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is Wikipedia. If your brand has a Wikipedia article, then that article is going to probably, in 99% of cases, occupy a slot on page 1 in Google search results. So when somebody types in your brand name as a keyword, they're probably going to see your website first and then the Wikipedia article for your brand second. Sometimes it's actually reversed where they see the Wikipedia article first. And this is going to do a couple things. One, occupying a slot on page 1 in Google searches is very important because you don't want to have the top slot. You want to have all 10. You want, when people look at the first page of Google search results, when they search for your brand, for everything that they see on that page to be about your brand. Because if anything on that page is about something else, there's a chance they'll click that instead of your brand, which is not what you want. So, it also drives traffic from one of the most visited sites in the world to yours, and it improves your credibility because here in the Philippines, people believe that there's a Wikipedia article about you that makes you more legit. But most importantly, by occupying that slot on page 1, that slot that it takes up is likely never to get pushed down. And that's important because if something bad happens and there's negative information about you on the internet, the last thing you want is for that negative information to make page 1 of Google search results for your brand name. Because if it does, when people search for your brand name, they're going to see the negative stuff. And there are studies that show that people are twice as likely to click something negative about your brand after searching for your brand than your own brand page itself, because they want to see what's going on, what's being said that's negative. And so something negative happening on the internet and getting on the page one of search results is going to be informing people that didn't even know about the issue necessarily that there's an issue or a problem, which is exactly the last thing that you want to happen. So Wikipedia is one way to occupy another slot on page one, which is a good reputation management strategy. I also recommend to my clients defensive domain name purchases, and that's owning domains that can be purchased to attack your brand, such as www.yourbrandsucks.com and your brand sucks with a dash, and your brand scam and your brand scam with a dash or two dashes. I generally recommend to most brands that they purchase between 20 and 30 different brand names that could be used to attack them in a crisis or in a situation with a highly dissatisfied customer who's very motivated. So I talked a little bit already about the page one of search results. And so I want to say again that good online reputations are harder to tarnish. So if you can fill page one of search results for your brand name with lots of high quality, high authority information about your brand, being your company website, your company Facebook page, your company LinkedIn, Twitter, Wikipedia, other websites, other articles that say nice things about your company, we can get these things onto page one, which is not that hard to do. Then there's a buffer against negative information breaking onto page one and hurting your brand reputation or tarnishing your image. We use search engine optimization techniques and some other techniques to move good stuff up, which then pushes bad, negative things down. So you definitely want to bump bad news from the first page. And you want a strategy to make sure you have that buffer in place before you have a problem or an issue. And I recommend that you stay connected. And when I say that, I mean that you listen to the internet and listen to the public so that when anything is said about your brand, you can engage with the public at that moment that your brand is mentioned. And using social media monitoring software paired with engagement can also address customer issues where they happen either on your page or anywhere else that's online. If something negative, it allows you to rapidly mitigate that so that you can see. Some people say, I don't know if I want to be out on the internet because what if people are saying negative things about us? Well, you really have a choice. You either let them say something negative and you let that stand unanswered, or you get in there and contribute to the conversation and let people see the other side and what's really going on. And of course, it's also important to identify and engage stakeholders and influencers, which you can do through using social media monitoring software. My company has a product called Engagement Star, which pairs monitoring with response. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a case study here coming up. Another good way to provide more information for corporate reputation management is to have a corporate blog. But not just your run-of-the-mill standard corporate blog, one that actively search engine optimizes. And when I say that, what I mean is whenever you have a blog, every single blog entry that you have really should be SEO optimized itself for at least one keyword, maybe more. And the purpose of this is because every single web page that your website has can rank online for something. And since it can rank for something, it should rank for something so that you've got as many things out there ranking as possible so that when people do searches of various topics related to your brand, they find information that you provided, drawing them into your website. Corporate blog entries that are ranked well by Google are going to, again, sit higher up than possible negative mentions of your brand. So having a corporate blog, it could be a way to have content that provides that buffer, like I mentioned before. And I also recommend doing a promotional micro campaign to drive viewership. And when I say that, what I mean is actually have the blog author or other people go out, read other blogs, read blog entries related to the subject of your blog entry, and leave a comment on that blog, an intelligent comment that's in response to something that the blog says that also references something on your blog so that it can have a link back to your blog. And what will happen is, as people read those other blog entries on other blogs and they see these intelligent comments with these links, some of them will click those links and that'll drive more traffic back to your website as well. Now I want to talk about a case study and then sort of a hypothetical to finish this out. The case study is in a situation where transparency wasn't enough to solve a brand's problem, and so they had to sort of go the extra mile in order to do that. The issue stemmed from a trial that was a really big deal here in the Philippines that happened in April and May of 2012. And during the trial, the person on trial was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the Philippines, and he was being impeached for malfeasance, basically, for financial irregularities. And the banks that held the Chief Justice's accounts were subpoenaed to testify about those accounts. Now, the problem was that a prominent bank that was holding some of the Chief Justice's accounts was subpoenaed. However, the banks are unable, according to the bank secrecy laws of the Philippines, to provide information about certain types of accounts. The Senate court was asking for information about accounts that were protected by the bank secrecy laws. The president of this bank was asked to provide information that by law he couldn't provide. And when he didn't provide the information, rumors started on the internet because, everything, of course, was televised live. And rumors got started on the internet by people who didn't understand the bank secrecy laws, which are somewhat complex. And these rumors were saying, he's probably, friends with them, and so he's protecting him. Or other rumors were that maybe he's getting paid off, or maybe there's some sort of a secret political alliance. But most of the theories assumed that the bank was hiding something. So in order to address the problem, which was spreading like wildfire through social media, we implemented a few different things for a solution. The first thing that we did was we started a blog for the president of the bank. And the president blogged about what it was like to be called to testify and how that affected him and his family. And what it was like, it was very narrative about what it was like to roll up to the Senate court and have the cameras outside and the journalists, and to get out of your car and they're sticking microphones in your face and you have to go through the crowd and go into the holding room, and what that was like, and then what it's like to be called into the gallery and they open the doors and there are all the senator judges sitting in their red robes, and what it was like to have to go testify and not be allowed to speak to your attorney because you have to ask for a recess to do that. And it humanized him. It made him into a person rather than just one more suit in a room full of suits. We also politely declined to do press interviews because we were in a situation where even the smallest mistake, one thing being taken out of context or one thing being misconstrued, could cause another number of problems. And so we politely declined to hold press interviews. The next thing that we did was we held a blogger event, and we brought some prominent bloggers together to show them a presentation on bank secrecy laws, and we gave the opportunity to ask the bank president whatever they wanted to about what was going on. We also brought along an attorney who could explain, who could answer complicated questions about the laws and interpret the Constitution as to why things were happening the way they were happening. And we also did a modified version of a product that my company has called Engagement Star. And I'll talk about that briefly. What Engagement Star does is it monitors the internet for mentions of particular keywords, and then it provides a human response. So, we listen to keywords of interest to the brand, and then when those keywords get mentioned, we have a response grid that we've set up in advance that tells us, if they say this, we answer with this. If they say that, we answer with that. And not like as a script, but as a general guideline for key messaging. If they're saying good things about a product, thank them and invite them to check out our website, or if they're saying something negative, apologize and then put them in touch with customer service, whatever the case may be. And so the way we modified the product is we actually had an attorney with some experience with constitutional law or an interest in it actually go out on the internet where people were talking about the issue and explain the bank secrecy laws and explain the Constitution so that people understood that the president of the bank was not in fact hiding anything, but was just trying to comply with all of the laws. And so if people were talking about it on Twitter, when we detected it, we would send the link to the attorney. The attorney would find the conversation thread and comment on it to all involved parties. If it was on a forum like PinoyExchange.com, we would send him there. And we sent him all over the internet to explain to people what was going on. And the results, we had a wide amount of success with this because the press was not able to conduct real-time interviews. They went to his blog instead, and they quoted his blog, which was a lot harder to misconstrue or take out of context because it's all there in black and white. So the press quoted the blog. So all of the quotes that went into the newspapers were good. The bloggers attending our event wrote 0 stories, and you normally think, oh, that's a bad thing, right? You don't want to have an event, show people a bunch of information, and then not have them write good things. But the fact that they didn't write any stories meant it wasn't an interesting issue to them, which is what we wanted because crisis management is about de-escalation. So we were actually very happy that they didn't find it interesting enough to write about. And lastly, the attorney that was engaging in internet discussions successfully killed the rumors by explaining what, the facts of the case and the facts of why the bank was doing what they were doing. So we ended up achieving a total PR victory in about 9 days. It was very fast. We were on the ground dealing with the rumors just a couple days after they got started, and we probably could have killed it faster if we could get involved at 0 hour, but of course we don't live in an ideal world. But we were very happy with the results, and so was the client. So now I want to talk to you about a hypothetical, and the hypothetical involves the mining industry here in the Philippines, which is a very, very hot topic. And we have a couple sort of more advanced reputation management ideas as to how the mining industry could probably mitigate some of the negative press and things out there about what they're doing. A lot of this is about using transparency to one's advantage. So, first of all, the mining industry has a problem, and that problem is that there's a persistent rumor that indigenous people living in these communities where mines are being set up are forcibly displaced by mining, or that their communities are impacted in a negative way. And so the objective there is to develop self-confidence amongst indigenous peoples in communicating their story to the rest of the world, which promotes global stewardship and protection. And so you might think, I don't see how the objective fits the problem. Well, we're talking about using transparency to our advantage. So if the issue is that people think that indigenous peoples are being displaced or negatively impacted, and we're giving them an opportunity to tell their own story to the world in their own words, then they're going to solve the problem as long as we really are being transparent and we're not hiding anything. And so, the community, the public, is not going to believe the mining companies with their big slick ads saying, look at all the great things that's happening in the mining communities. But they're going to believe people in those communities themselves saying, look, I live here, I'm a part of what's going on, and here's my story. So the indigenous peoples largely live in poverty, and they don't have access to the same technology that we do in Manila. So in order to get indigenous peoples blogging, we need to go to their communities, conduct storytelling workshops with them, collect uplifting or inspiring stories, collaborate with them to upload their words to the web, and basically teach them how to blog. And that's what we would recommend doing. Then after they get going, we can help them sustain their content creation by suggesting story angles and things like that. But this also gets their story out to the world and gives them a voice in the global forum, which is the internet, about what's going on where they are, which can only be a good thing. Another issue that we're looking at is that the public thinks there's not enough publicly available information about what is happening with mines and mining communities. And so, this would seem like a no-brainer, but it's not something that has yet been launched here in the Philippines, but we think would be a good idea, would be a way to present, real time or close to real time, as close as possible, information to concerned parties and stakeholders regarding mining activities. To, put a window up, put a portal up where everybody can see what's going on. So we're proposing a website called Mining Watch, where it has an interactive map which you can mouse over or you can click on to monitor social challenges and successes in and around mining communities, and to monitor things like average grades in schools and hospital statistics, employment statistics, how areas are being used, and much, much more. There's a wealth of statistics available, and these statistics can be compiled online so that people can see how mining communities are actually affected. And it would probably be a good idea to track some non-mining communities too, so you can see the difference, to see if they're impacted in a better way or in a worse way, to get a baseline. My final message in this presentation is that you really should start reputation management activities before you have a reputation problem, because it's a lot more inexpensive to handle a reputation problem when it happens. If you're being reactive, it costs much more. And if a reputation threat materializes, try thinking outside the box to solve it. The old rules just don't apply anymore. The old rules being, okay, we're going to put together a press release, we're going to send it out, we're going to monitor the media, we're going to respond to new information as it develops. There's much better ways, there's much more creative ways to handle problems now. And of course, use transparency to your advantage. Move first and move fast. Thank you very much. If you want to get a hold of me, you can contact me at _TonyOn_ on Twitter, or please feel free to send me an email at tony@tonyon.com. Thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.